Welcome to the Billy Ho Forecast Show. Please subscribe and like the video. Remember, the more you share, the bigger we grow. Now, let's go! Hello, Billy Ho here. I'm joined on the Tuesday show with the DFS chef on Twitter named David. And we are going to cover DraftKings mostly for the Open Championship, aka British Open for the United States folks. I just learned that today that I should have probably put that in my tagline and title on my first video because it gets a lot more attention that way on YouTube. So, you live and you learn. Hopefully I'll get some more views and we'll get it rocking. How are you today, Dave? Looking tight in that Billy Ho Sports t-shirt. You can get one. You hit me up on Twitter at BILLYAH40. DM me, and just a donation for shipping is all I ask for. Usually $5 or $10, depending on how many shirts. I've sent out over a half a dozen. So anyway, sorry, Dave. Go ahead. What's going on, man?
I'm doing good, man. I had to rep it for you. I was surprised to get it so quick. So I had to put it on for today's show.
Hell yeah. And I wanted to wear mine too. And I thought I just told you a minute ago. I said, I know I will at least hope you was going to wear it. And I thought if he wears it and then I wear mine, we're going to look like twinsies. And we're both already bald and gray bearded. So, I mean, they're going to think we're the same person. All right. Well, this is the British Open, St. Andrews Golf Course. Check out my preview show. I go over the flyover. I did about 5 or 6 holes on the YouTube flyover. It's really good. So check it out. All right. We are opened to the stat model of the DFS chef on Twitter, David. And if you want this stat model, you can get it. It's $1 a week. You could probably still get it $5 the rest of the year. I think we got about 10 events left, and then $25 for all of next season. And it's a solid stat model. It's got current form, tournament history. It's got bets and player pool, comp courses, all kinds of stuff. For $1, look how much this would save you on just time. It's just right here. It would probably limit your research time quite a bit just for $1 a week. You can't beat that. Fantasy National and everywhere else charge you, $60, $100 a month or whatever. So anyway, David is going to kick us off with the 10Ks and up. So go ahead, Dave, and likes, dislikes, where you at?
Yeah, for cash plays purposes, I can fully understand fading this entire 10K plus range for cash, and getting yourself like 3 9K plays this week in cash. When it comes to GPP, obviously Rory's form is superb. Over the last couple of years, his tournament history at the Open Championship has dwindled a little bit, but he's back in form right now. I understand why. A lot of people are talking about going to Rory. He's number 1 in my model right now. And then, the other guy that when we talk Open Championships, and what it takes and the creativity around the green that we need, that just like oozes Jordan Spieth. So, those are probably the 2 guys that above 10K I'm focusing on the most. I think I don't have projected ownership yet. Obviously you do with Fantasy National, but I'm guessing that Morikawa, and believe it or not, I'm probably going to say Rahm. I'm going to say Morikawa and Rahm are probably like the two lowest projected guys above 10K right now. So
you're 100% correct.
Go ahead. So if you want to be contrarian, obviously you can go with the defending Open Championship, champion in Colin Morikawa. Granted, it was a different course, and also granted his form right now is really suspect. And same with Rahm. A lot of other golfers that are not named John Rahm, would be happy with his results this year, but I know that he's not all happy with his game right now. So if you're going to be contrarian, I can even understand going those two guys.
Yeah, I hear you there, man. I was thinking the same thing. I've been a Rom supporter and player, and he just I even mentioned in the Discord this week that he just disappoints me. He really disappointed me last week with the way he kind of fell off over the weekend. His around the green and putting is still sloppy. He's making too many easy mistakes, short chips that are like he'll be laid up in two on a par five and have a chip and a putt, and he'll leave it 25 feet short for his birdie. Just little irritating things like that. And then he'll lip out the putt from 25 feet or something like that. And we're like, oh man, Rom, but he still didn't make the birdie. So he does irritate me in that aspect. And I feel the same about Morikawa around the green game. Man, I don't know. It's really going to be tough, but like you said, the ownership is there. I am definitely not going all in on anyone in this range. But I agree with you on Spieth. He'll be my heaviest play. A, because he's 10K, he's the cheapest guy. B, because he's in just as good a form as anybody else. He don't need to be, he's a little wild off the tee, but he should be okay with this course in that aspect. He's been dialed in with the irons, and his around the green game is, he has had some struggles putting, but I think he putted a little bit better at the Scottish Open last week. He disappointed me Sunday because he was right up. I had him in showdown, and he was right up Xander's ass. And then I walked out of the room, and 10 seconds later, he dropped 4 shots. And I was like, where the hell did he go? So he tends to make stupid mistakes where he'll three-putt, like he three-putted from 20 feet or something and made a double bogey, instead of just a bogey the other day. And stuff like that irritates me. But him, and I'm going to bleed into the 9Ks too. But these three guys, and I know you'll agree, Xander, obviously the winner, Matty Fitz, all three of these guys right here are all going to garner ownership. And it's probably a good thing that they're so close together because they can just kind of draft off each other in ownership. As you can see, it's only Tuesday, but I don't see these changing a hell of a lot. I think they're all going to be pushing 17 to 20, but no one player like Xander is going to be 25% or more, which is good. And it's actually probably good that he won because people don't like to play the previous week winner sometimes. But I always like running that back because they won for a reason. And people I've already heard say Xander didn't have his best stuff. And so to me, that screams go ahead and play him again. FYI, Will Z is Ander Kirst this week. He was Tim Anderson's number one pick. He picks 3 guys. I think Mito was one, and I forgot who the other guy was, but Will Z was his most confident pick. And I'm okay. He was already going to kind of be the odd man out for me anyway, because I love me some Cam Smith this week. He gets a little wonky off the tee sometimes, but I think he'll be just fine here. And his irons, especially his wedge play is just among the best. I mean, JT's, I got proximity from 75 to 100 and 100 to 125. Spieth is pretty decent in this range. You can see Xander and all these guys. Cam Smith, solid. This is just the last 5 events. He's up there. 3-putt avoidance, he's up there. Overall approach, tee to green, and he's just good drives. So I feel like I can forgive him. And he's a bounce back putter. So I think he's been a little sluggish with the putter lately. So I think he'll definitely improve on that. And like I said, I'm going to have a little piece of Spieth, Xander, Fitz. And I do believe I didn't really say up top, but I feel like Rory's the safest play. And I'll probably not going all in on anybody. So I will probably just sprinkle a little bits and then take bigger stands down here. I got some guys down in the 7K range that I really like. So I'll let you know when we get there. But David, go ahead and start in with your 9Ks, and then you can bleed into the 8s.
Yeah, sure thing. I think we're kind of on the same page in the 9K range. I'll throw up some nice information in our Discord once we're done recording this. For those of you who, follow Andy Lack or have access to, Rick Rungood's site. Andy Lack does the preview write up for all the week to week tournaments, and the write up he had in there, he threw in some great knowledge that I'll put in our Discord. But for cash games in the 9K, I can understand, like I said, going 3 guys in the 9K range. And one of those stats that I'll throw in there is the importance of guys that played last week, which is why Rory kind of gets knocked down a little bit. I'm not saying don't play Rory, obviously. He's number 1 in my model. But I believe it was 8 of the last 10 winners in the Open Championship had played the week prior. So that is a little bit of, some knowledge for you, but that's why I'm seeing it. I haven't built any of my lineups yet, but I'm looking at it. I'm leaning to guys that played last week. So for cash game purposes, I'm right with you. I think I'm going to probably be for cash going Xander, Fitzy, and Cantlay in cash builds, and I think that's $29,000 even, if I'm not mistaken, which would leave you 21, which is exactly 7K for your remaining 3 guys. So it's definitely doable. There are some viable plays under 7K if you wanted to go to probably the heaviest chop guy that we're going to have this week, and we'll talk about him when we get there. But someone had reached out to me and asked me about Zalatoris this week, and I go, for GPPs, maybe I can kind of get it because he's sandwich priced, in between Zalatoris and Fitzy, and obviously Cam Smith and Cantlay. So he's sandwiched, but I definitely prefer those 4 over Zalatoris this week. And then of course, when we talk Open Championships, you can always, throw Shane Lowry into the mix.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't play the Scottish, which is, kind of a little bit of a, like I said, 8 of the last 10. So that kind of bumps him down a little bit, but he's been playing solid this year. So I'll definitely still have some ownership on Shane Lowry. And for me, I think that's kind of it in the 9K range. It's those 4 that you mentioned and I mentioned: Schauffele, Fitzpatrick, Cam Smith, Cantlay, and then I'll throw in some Lowry. And when we go into the 8K range, for me, it's kind of tricky with the 8K range, because if you go, and I think the 8K is going to be a lot of like GPP builds this week, unless you want to go 2 9K and then go down into an 8K for cash, which I can understand if you wanted to maybe fade Fitzy or Cantlay in the 9K and get yourself an 8K play. I mean, obviously, Usti, when we talk Open Championships and majors, Usti's name always is in the mix. Pricing came out early, and obviously, on the live events, he's had 2 top 10s, and then he played that one DP World Tour that he just played in between the live tournaments when he had a top 10. So, I mean, he's looking like he's in good form, but to me, it just seems like 8,800 is so much to pay for Usti, who's always a shoe tie away from a withdrawal. He can lean down to tie his shoelaces and pull his back. So I honestly think he should have been like in the low 8K range this week, and I think they only priced him at 88 based off of his major, history as well as his Open Championship history. I actually prefer Hatton over Usti this week. He's been kind of up and down a little bit with his form recently, but he did show something last week. He's got decent history when we talk Open Championships, and then when we also, if you look at the Alfred Dunhill Links Championship on the DP World Tour, he's a 2-time winner on the Alfred Dunhill, which they play 36 holes at the old course because it's a course rotation.
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it's a course rotation for the Alfred Dunhill, but two of the rounds are played on this old course, and I have it down on the Bets and Player Pool tab. I put results of the Dunhill Links for 2016 through 2019, and then 2021, because 2020 obviously didn't play, and he is number 1 when we talk strokes gained total for that particular tournament. So I do think Hatton's viable, more GPP than cash for sure. Fleetwood, I mean, I can't stand playing Fleetwood when we talk, like 85 and up, but we're not in the United States. We're on his territory now. So 8,600 for Fleetwood on his territory, I don't mind. And he's actually one of Kenny Kim's cash game cornerstones this week. So I don't mind Fleetwood. I don't know if I would use him in cash, but he's got solid history here. So, I mean, maybe you do go there. I do like Tony Finau this week. Finau has played in that Alfred Dunhill before. You look at his Open Championship history; it's absolutely, it's really, really good.
Yeah.
I do think Finau's getting talked up though. I think his ownership is going to creep up there. And then the other guy that I could see possibly throwing into cash, even though his Open Championship history is not great, but he's kind of taken his game to another level. And he's actually 600 less this week than he was last week, where he just gave us a top 20 last week, and that's Joaquin Niemann at 8,000 even.
Yep, that's who I shot out to the Discord when we were putting together our little Discord lineup. He wanted an 8K guy, and I looked and I said, "Damn, I knew I'd get pigeonholed into 8Ks because this is not the range that I was most excited about." Like you said, Burns is. I don't know. I played him last week and he looked like he was doing pretty well there for a while. And then he fell off over the weekend. And I don't know if he's quite the course fit. I think he's more of your traditional kind of PGA tour style rather than European. And it's funny you said that. And great minds will tend to disagree. I wrote down here, definitely him over Hatton. The exact opposite of what you said on Louis, because Hatton is just he looked like he was going to be all right last week, and he just didn't get it done. But Usti, I can't tell. Like I said, this is what I wrote about Usti. Great course fit, but I don't think his form is quite there. He's great on the sub 400, which if you watch my preview video, 350 to 400, there is a shit ton. Of course, there's a ton of par fours. There's 14 of them altogether, but there's half of them are 350 to 400. It seemed like every hole I went over just seemed like it was that way. And so I looked, this is not the actual, this is 3 months. I think I screwed this up because I put something down here. Oh, maybe not. Last 3 months. I'm gonna do 6 months. See what we come up with. Get a little bit bigger of a sample size. Like his wedges are there, but he's in the top 10 and 350 to 400. Hatton, he's got some, of course, putting and 3-putt avoidance. He makes birdies. He is a solid play. I don't know that I'm probably going to ignore them all because I think, like you said, price wise, I don't think any of them are worth the price. And Fleetwood, if I did play, would probably be in cash because he's a cut maker and he just lacks the upside a lot of times. Tony, we agreed on there. Great open course record. He was a first look play for me. He's going to be probably 16 to 18%. Which is kind of high, but he's got the great open tournament record. And I think he likes these slower greens like they have over here with the fescue, and they run about 10 on the stem. I feel like that helps his jittery putter because that way he's not so scared to blow it by the hole. Because I think a lot of times that's where he gets the yips on those little 3 or 4 footers. And that's just an opinion. Niemann, like I said, he's a lock. Now, leading into 7Ks, I think actually what I might end up doing is playing a little bit of Niemann, but somebody's got to get sacrificed because Homa is just as popular. They're both eating each other's ownerships, but there's so many low-owned guys. I don't think I can go Cam Young. He's got the game for it. I think irons off the tee. He's so long. And his PGA stats look like you should be playing him. Homa ranks 8th in the model, and he's proved last week, if not for that poor, I think it was mostly putting performance Sunday. I can't say for sure, but he looked like he just gave it up a little bit toward the end on his back nine. So I could see playing him, but I'm going to have to take some stands here somewhere. So I'm not really sure. Like I said, something I did want to bring up, and since we're getting into my favorite range here, I got my own little spreadsheet here. And what I did was tee times start at 6:35 a.m. their time and run all the way through 4 o'clock, 4:16. They just go off one after another off number one. So I broke it up into 4 blocks. Block one is the first 13. Block two is the second 13. Block three, and then block 4. And what I'll do instead of playing some kind of wave AM or PM is I'm really going to be clocking the weather, because sometimes when you run into British Open, you can catch little 2-hour spurts of heavy wind. So I don't see a lot of wind problems right now, but it can change overnight. But what I did see was early Thursday seemed to be the lightest wind out of both days. So I really kind of dialed into this block number 1 in the 7Ks, which leads off with Webb Simpson. And Webb is 7,600 and not in his best form, Simpson. And I was saying that his form is not the best, but I feel like this particular course he can be okay on, because he's been not so good with the driver. So I think he won't have to, feel like he has to hit it 320 yards every time. So he can just hit a lot of irons. I do feel like his wedge game's pretty good, gotten a lot better recently. And he's always got the potential to get hot around the greens and on the green putting. So I do like Webb. I also like Billy Horschel. He's in the first block 1 as it is. And he's missed a couple of cuts here recently, but I feel like he'll be ready for a bounce back, because Billy Horschel makes the majority of cuts when he plays. So missing 2 in a row is a good sign that he's not going to miss 3. He finished 30th here in 2015, and that was back right after he came off the 2014 FedEx Cup Championship. So he came back that following year, and he was in a really good nick the first few tournaments leading up to that 30th place finish. And of course, he just won Memorial. So I think maybe he just had that monkey off his back, finally winning like a legit PGA Tour event. So I'm going to play some Billy Ho, and not to take everybody, but there's about 3 or 4 more guys down here in this first block. Patrick Reed is one. Great price for a season major contender. He began making cuts back in mid-May. He was a T3 in that Portland Live event. So I think he's in good shape. He's always got the hot short game. If he has a good iron week, I think he'll be okay off the tee. I think he can compete. I think we're looking at top 10 finish here from Patrick Reed myself. And down here, I didn't really get into, I don't know if I'll run back Jordan Smith or not. There are a certain few guys down here, like the Euro dudes, that I didn't get into, but I didn't want to jump on everybody. Go ahead, David, and give us some 7Ks and then get into the 6Ks for us.
Yeah, I mean, well, like I mentioned, I think Homa is going to probably be the chalk bomb of the week. It's especially for cash game plays. It's going to be Xander and Homa. I think are going to be probably your 2 highest owned golfers in cash. And I mean, I completely understand Homa. His price was 8,000 last week, so he only dropped 100. But the 16th place finish last week. 47th at the U.S. Open. So I mean, he's been in great form right now. He was 40th last year at the Open. Obviously, a different course. Robbie Mack has got 2 top 10s in 2019 and 2021 at the U.S. Open, but he definitely was a letdown last week at the Scottish. I had a good amount of Robbie Mack, and he missed the cut by 2 strokes. I do, even though he didn't play last week, he did look very good at another major at the U.S. Open. I can understand maybe some Adam Scott this week. I do think that distance is going to be a key factor this week. The fairways are wide open, not much of a rough to be concerned about. I mean, unless you're way off into the fescue, that's the only thing that's going to really penalize you. And Adam Scott every now and then will go completely errant with his shot, just like Spieth. But Adam Scott does have that win equity in him, so I can understand maybe Adam Scott for GPPs. I do like Webb also. Hopefully he brings his game. He's kind of been a little hit and miss right now. I think he's still working his way back into it, but his open track record kind of speaks for itself at 7,600. I can definitely understand throwing some Webb maybe in some GPPs. Uh, Seamus Power, you know, Seamus Power continues to prove us wrong. He's not that long of a hitter, but yet he does well at longer tracks. I mean, we've seen it. This course is 7,300 yards, but everyone's saying it's going to play more like it's like 66 or 6,700 yards. We're going to see a lot of rollout, just like we did last week. I know Rick has like boots on the ground because of his CBS credentials, and Rick was saying from what he's got from his boots on the ground guys that the course right now looks very dry, and that it is rolling out a ton. So expect kind of the similar situation that we saw last week at the Scottish. I just think that we're going to have much lower scoring this week than we did last week. Originally, I thought maybe we were going to see very close to the same, like -8, -9, but we could easily get to -20 this week, especially with what everyone's talking about. So, if we're looking at that, I might be willing to go with a little Justin Rose, in some GPPs. Again, kind of that hit or miss kind of thing. He's been flashing. I originally was looking at maybe, like I said, scoring similar to last week, which put me on Bezuidenhout, because he doesn't bogey that often. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. I do think he's relatively safe to make the cut, but if the scoring's going to get really low, I don't know if Bezuidenhout can go that low. But at 7,300, he's definitely worth a go, possibly. Everyone's talking Mito, but I'd rather play Bezuidenhout at 7,300 than going with Mito.
I absolutely agree, David. And one thing about Seabez, as I affectionately call him, is if you look back to this John Deere Classic Birdie Fest, he came in that close second. So he showed the ability there, which encouraged me to go low. I forget where he finished, but he was I think maybe 18 under. He was just a shot or two back from Poston. But Go ahead, man. I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, of course. And then, I think Thomas Pieters is another guy that you can kind of throw in the mix. 27th at the U.S. Open. So I do think he's viable, especially GPPs, and could be a nice pivot off of Jordan Smith, because Jordan Smith is probably going to garner a lot of ownership, and it's well deserved. Jordan Smith, definitely showed that he can keep up there with the big names. And you look at his recent form, granted, a majority of it's all on the DP World Tour, but it's still there. Like I said, we're across the pond. We're in their neck of the woods. So I do think Jordan Smith is definitely someone that is viable. And again, he's one of Kenny's cash game cornerstones this week. So it makes sense. Ryan Fox was a little bit of a letdown last week, but now his price has significantly dropped from what it was last week. So I do like Ryan Fox. Victor Perez, even though he missed the cut last week and he missed the cut at the Open last year, if you go back to that DP World, the Dunhill, links, he's only, I think, got 7 rounds on the Dunhill, but his strokes gained total on the Dunhill is actually really good. He actually did win the Dunhill. I believe it was 2019, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong. Gary Woodland's Open history, not good, but his form looks pretty good. He didn't look that bad last week. And you saw a lot of these guys, sending a lower ball flight last week. They were really using that stinger last week for a lot of their shots, which sets up really well for Woodland. So I don't mind maybe throwing Woodland in some GPPs. Tagala just continues to make cut after cut after cut. He obviously flew across the pond, but Tagala maybe in a GPP, I could maybe understand it. But Danny Willett's also gaining a lot of steam. and it's understandable. It's, you know, you look at his open history, and then also the Alfred Dunhill, you know, championship that they play. I think he was second on that list in strokes gained total. So it kind of makes sense at 7K even. I don't know if I'm going to get to him, but he's definitely a name that is possibly someone that can throw into your player pool. Tringale, you know, granted, he really, after that first round 9 under, he was just kind of floating, and
Yeah.
you know, kind of went down the table. But you know, he still was able to hold a sixth place finish last week, and he finished T26 in last year's Open. So at 7K even, Tringale, I don't mind, you know, going into GPPs. Um, this is what they would consider a coastal track. So when you talk coastal tracks, Aaron Wise's name always pops up in the coastal tracks. So, you know, at 7K even, Aaron Wise is somewhat of an interest. And then we dip down into the below 7K range. And, you know, Kurt Kitayama, after that second place finish last week, is obviously going to pick up steam. He's missed the cut at the last two Open Championships, but he is going to garner ownership, and I understand the reason for it. I'm hearing Dylan Fratelli's name popping up from several people, and obviously, you know, fifth place at last year's Open Championship, and he's made his last two cuts at the Deer and also last week. So, I mean, I can understand maybe, you know, Fratelli picking up some steam, but I'm probably looking at, you know, a lot of these Euro guys under 7K, you know, Justin Harding on the Live Tour. You know, he's continued to make cut after cut. Two good showings at the Open Championship, the last two times played at 6,800. So I can maybe understand going to Justin Harding in a couple lineups. Dean Burmeister is someone that I'm looking at after the top 10 finish last week, and then made the cut at last year's Open Championship at 6,700. Griot's starting to show some form again, but I don't know if I'm going to get to him. Kind of on the fence, because I'd rather play, even though he missed the cut at last year's Open Championship, I think I'd rather go to Thomas Dietrich, who's only 6,600, the 100 less. And then surprisingly, you know, Wyndham Clark.
Yeah, man. I tell you what, Clark, we're down to about 2 minutes left, Dave. So I'm gonna go ahead and polish this off.
Yeah.
Yeah, Clark, I caught on to late last week, just bombing and putting, played quite well. But I'm with you on Kitayama, and on Fantasy National, he's sub 2% right now. And I don't understand that. He was ball striking like crazy, you know, and he was just great. I don't know why he won't be able to repeat it this week. The two of the guys up top, the 6,900 boys, Harman and Kisner, are kind of both interesting to me because, like you said, with a lot of run out and everything, these guys ain't going to have to be long off the tee. I don't know if Harman, being a lefty, because I feel like Phil's done pretty well here. Lefties might, you know, McIntyre's a lefty, so maybe being lefty might help. Both of those I thought were interesting. I agreed with you on the Griot call. And one more guy, and I might have to look at the some of these Euro guys down here too, because, you know, guys like Higo and Horsfield and Scrivener. You know, Scrivener was 16th last week, so there's a few things I'm going to look into. And I thought about Chris Kirk, but he really blew up after his first couple of rounds. His approach game went south, which surprises the hell out of me because that's the one thing he's been so good at this year. So I'm gonna leave it at that. And let's go stop the share here. And that's going to wrap it up for us. We're running short on time here, but I want to thank you, David, for coming on with me and talking golf and sporting that beautiful Billy Ho gear. Once again, you can find David on @the_DFS Chef on Twitter. And you can find me at BILLYAH on Twitter. Hit us in the DMs, get a t-shirt, get you a stat model. Billy Ho's growing. Appreciate everybody's support. Subscribe. Till the next show. Peace.